What's going on, Giants fans? It is me and the Entertainah back talking about the Giants for week two. I was on his channel for week one. You go ahead and check that out if you missed it. I will put your link in the description for your channel. I'm sure most people know you, but in case you don't, go ahead and check out Chris. Great channel. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. We'll be doing it next week on my channel. And I mean, in terms of being a Giants fan, obviously we're used to this. We start out 0-2, it seems like every year since I've been watching the team, even though it's
Yeah.
not that bad, but in recent history. And obviously it was a really tough week, obviously my favorite player, Saquon Barkley, goes down. And looks like the Giants got a plan to hopefully get the running game back going. I think there was definitely some positives to take from last week. Obviously, some negatives when you lose to the Chicago Bears 17-13, and I'm sure we'll talk about all of it.
Yeah. Do you want to recap the game real quick or get into the Devonta Freeman news? Where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, let's start with the game. Let's start with the
All
game.
right, cool. Defensively, how'd they look to you? Because I thought it was pretty good.
I'll tell you what, right now, I did a video on the defense, a couple of days after when I got to look at the final numbers. This defense is, and granted, it's only a 2-game sample size. Granted, you're not going against great offenses. The Steelers have I would say, an average offense.
Yeah.
The Bears, who knows? They're probably a little bit below average, but Trubisky's look pretty good, at least in his first week. The Giants' defense is night and day. I mean, they are fifth in the league in sacks. They are, I think, fourth in total yards against per game at 326. Last year, they surrendered 378 a
Hmm.
contest. The defense just looks a lot better. And one of the things that shocked me when I looked at the numbers, the Giants have only sent pressure on 12% of the quarterback's dropbacks. They've only blitzed 12% of the time. In comparison to last year, was 29%. Yet they're getting more pressure on the quarterback,
Yeah.
which goes to show me you got a smarter mind as a defensive coordinator. You probably got better coverage. James Bradbury has been out of this world. In this game, I think he had the highest PFF grade of any defensive player in football
Yep. Hmm.
this week. And that interception that he had was ridiculous. And he caused the other interception with the batted ball. I think we're getting good pressure. We had 4 sacks this week. A lot of those are coverage sacks, but I don't care as long as you're generating pressure one way or another. And this defense looks good. It looked bad in the first half, don't get me wrong, but they fought, man. And, I said that right after the game. I think that's a really good sign for Joe Judge that this team came out. They had every excuse to quit. Barkley goes down. Shepard goes down. You're down 17-0 at the half, and this defense kept them in the ballgame. The defense played their asses off that entire second half. We shut them out. And they've exceeded my expectations early on. I thought this defense would really struggle. The offense, not so much, but I'm sure we're going to get into that. But the defense has been much better than I initially anticipated.
Yeah, I would say it's the opposite. I kind of expected more for the offense, if that makes sense. And then the defense is the one taking the step up. But it's a good fact that you said before, like the defense is getting more pressure, but not blitzing as much. And that's pretty important. I looked at the sack leaders for teams today, and the Giants are pretty high up there, honestly. So you got to be encouraged by that. You touched on Bradbury, caused 2 interceptions, basically. He was phenomenal in that game. The secondary, I mean, there's some ups and downs. I mean, Yadam has not been good. Valentine has not been good. We expect more out of Peppers. I guess Love's been all right. But, him and Darnay Holmes, him being Bradbury, have been very good, in my opinion. Anthony Miller had 0 catches, mainly a slot receiver. So that says a lot about Darnay Holmes and how good he was in that game. Got to be encouraged by some of the defensive linemen. B.J. Hill got involved. I think Dalvin Tomlinson played better this week as compared to last week. So I think those guys are playing well. You got to be encouraged by the defense so far, for sure.
Yeah, Zoe Carter had a sack.
Yeah.
Martinez has been involved the last 2 weeks. He got lost in coverage here and there, but overall, I'm beyond encouraged with Martinez based on what people were saying when we signed him. I think he's done a good job. I think our defense is definitely well ahead of the curve. In terms of the offense, yeah, I mean, Barkley goes down. The offense was non-existent the first half. We had a great drive there in the second half. I thought the team responded pretty well. I think we went 95 yards. We were able to punch it in from the
Yeah.
1-yard line. In terms of the first half, though, I'll be the first to say it, and I'm a guy that's backing Jones. I want to give him a fair opportunity this year. The fumble was bad. I mean, you're in the pocket. You've got 3 or 4 seconds for you have to feel that pressure at that point.
Yeah.
He's holding the ball like a loaf of bread at the side. It's not like one of those sacks where it's within a second, 2 seconds. He had 3, 4 seconds. You got to sense that pressure. You got to tuck that ball away, or you got to get rid of the football. The interception, I haven't gotten a chance, and I know you do the game film breakdown, so maybe you could talk more about this, but I looked like Evan Ingram slipped on that play, so I'm not 100% sure who put the fault on with that interception, but that was the game. I mean, you gave up 3 points, and it should have been 7. The Bears dropped a touchdown in the corner of the end zone right
Yeah.
after that fumble, and then the Giants get held to, they give up at least a field goal when he throws the pick. So those 2 plays don't happen. The New York Giants win that game. The other thing I wanted to mention was the third down defense and the third down offense were horrible in this game. The Bears were 9 of 16 on third down conversions. I think the Giants were 3 of 13. And that was the difference in the game. We lost by, I think, 7 minutes in the time of possession, and that's because of that. When your defense can't get off the field and your offense can't extend drives, you're not going to win very many football games.
100%. You've said it very well right there. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the third down and the conversions too, and you were right. I think the numbers are 9 for 16 compared to 3 for 13. And like I was saying to myself watching the game, like, why are the Bears converting so many third and mediums, third and longs? It's Mitch Trubisky. That was supposed to be the weak link of this team. But honestly, he made some nice throws. I got to give him some credit. But for the Ingram play, he did slip 100%. But when you watch the film, and I know Jones wasn't looking on the left side of the field, there was a receiver open about 5 yards away. I think it was a 3rd and 8 or a 3rd and 9. So the receiver might have had to pick up a few yards there, but there was a safer route. It's in my breakdown video, so you can watch that. But I don't know if I want to blame Jones for the interception. It's a risky throw because that corner or safety is right behind him. And if he, just misses that throw or he slips, which he did, then it turns into an interception. But I can't blame Jones for that. I do blame him for the fumble. I think 2 receivers could have been open on that play. Golden Tate was running like a slant. Sterling Shepard's running a crosser, and I know the safety was coming up on him, but Golden Tate was open for a little bit. So was Sterling Shepard at one point. Got to get rid of that ball. Andrew Thomas's technique was awful on that play, so you got to call him out. I think Thomas might have took a bit of a step back from week 1, but it still wasn't the worst game. It wasn't Eric Flowers level, to say the least. But yeah, he had maybe 3 or 4 plays where I didn't like what I saw, but for the most part, I think Thomas was pretty solid. Maybe Will Hernandez, I think, had an improvement this week as compared to last week. Nick Gates improved as well. Zeitler looked good. Not much happened with Cam Fleming, so that's definitely a good thing, So I guess the offensive line in some instances improved. Now they play a team in the Niners that are missing basically all their starting defensive linemen, so hopefully they have a better showing in week 3 and gets even better.
Yeah, that to me is the key to this whole season. To me, is the quarterback and the offensive line. Obviously, we want to see the defense continue to prosper as well, but the offensive line took a step up. That's what I'll say. They're still not great. They're still not close to a finished product, but the offensive line looked much better than they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and hopefully that continues. And this week, we don't have any excuses. I mean, you're missing – I think they're 3 best pass rushers. They're missing Thomas, they're missing Bosa, and they're missing Ford, not to mention they're missing Shermer on defense. So the offensive line has no excuses not to at least get a decent push and provide Daniel Jones with enough time to throw the football, and I hope they will. They got to come out with a balanced attack, and Jones got to make some plays. The other thing I didn't like in this game, and I don't know if I'm going to put this on Garrett. I don't know if I'm going to put it on Jones, or maybe it's because the offensive line doesn't do a good enough job in terms of giving Jones enough time to take shots down the field. Giants didn't take any shots down the field. I wanted to see them take more shots down the field. Everything was within 15 yards. They were slants. They got to try to stretch that defense a little bit if they want to help the ground attack.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised by that. My expectations coming into the year, was to have a short passing offense to play to Jones's strengths. But at the same time, you have to take 2 or 3 shots a game because at that point, safeties are creeping up and you're just making your playing field even smaller at that point. So the Giants, they did a good job of it in week 1. They had Slayton on that deep post route. But I mean, outside of that, there weren't many deep passes. I mean, maybe the Ingram one where it was offensive pass interference. But last week, there really wasn't many deep throws at all. A lot of quick stuff. I know you want to get the ball out quick and take away the fumbling opportunities, make the offensive line look better than it is, and kind of hide that deficiency, which I like. But at the same time, take a shot here and there. I mean, come on, run and play action, a bootleg, have Jones set his feet, trying to hit a receiver deep, maybe a jump ball. Slayton was not involved enough in this game, in my opinion, not even a deep ball, so you got to give him a shot. I know Slayton dropped that slant pass. You went over that in your post-game reaction I saw, which I think was a pretty big play because it was 17-0 at that point. Would have made it 1st and goal. Maybe they score a touchdown off that instead of a field goal. And towards the end of the game, they might have been a field goal away instead of a touchdown away. They could have tied that game instead of having to score a touchdown on the final possession. So that is a big play. But you are right. I kind of want them to stretch the field more. It has to happen. But at the same time, I can't say I'm surprised because they're playing to the quarterback's strengths.
Yeah, and the offensive line's deficiencies too. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to touch on, and I didn't mention in my postgame, but I realized it after, and I don't remember how much time was on the clock. I know it was approaching the end. I think right maybe before the 2-minute warning of the second half. Maybe you remember the exact time. The wasted timeout by the New York Giants when they sent the offense back on the field. The center never even touched the ball, Nick Gates. Yeah. They just went out there. They didn't break the huddle until about 4 or 5 seconds, and they wasted a timeout. had they had that timeout on the last drive, instead of kicking a 57-yard field goal before the half, maybe you're kicking a 47-yard field goal. Maybe you would have given yourself another play or two because you had the timeout to get yourself in a better field goal situation. So I thought that was a bad job by Joe Judge in wasting a timeout, if I'm going to be fair.
Yeah, no, that is fair. I mean, I do remember watching someone posted it on Twitter. I forget who it was, but Nick Gates didn't even have his hand on the ball. Like, how are you supposed to draw someone off sides if your hand's not on the ball? I mean, that's just ridiculous. But you are right. I mean, they got to do a better job of those things. And Joe Judge, I mean, he's been great so far. We can criticize him here and there. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not coming down on him at all. But in that situation, you take the 5 yards. You don't waste the timeout. Yeah, you take the 5 yards.
And the field goal for Gano at, what was it, 57 yards, I feel like we all knew it was going to be a miss. The way that second quarter, even the first half as a whole, with the injuries and all those things and the offense not doing well, we kind of just figured, all right, he's missing this. Like, I had no faith personally. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I knew he was going to miss it as well, and you could not. That's what I took positive out of this game, though. You could literally have not ended a half worse. You miss a field goal, your best player goes down, Shepard goes down, and your team comes out and they fight their asses off. And we were 10 yards away from winning the football game. So I try to take positive out of every game, especially in a year like this, where if you're a reasonable and rational fan, you shouldn't be going into this year expecting playoffs. You should be expecting incremental progress. And I think that's what we're going to get with this football team. I thought the offense would start slow this year. I really did, because it's a new system. It's a new scheme. The offensive line, you got 3 new members. I'm not surprised that the Giants have come out skittish on offense, especially with the defenses they've gone up against. So I've got to give Jones and the Giants offensive line and Garrett at least another 3 weeks for them to get acclimated to this system before I really, truly get to evaluate the progress of Daniel Jones.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, between the schedule and this whole thing being new, the Giants' offense almost has to get better. I mean, just based on the experience and the opponents getting easier. We talked about it before. There's just a murderer's row of just, first month of the season for the Giants, even month and a half, basically the first 5 or 6 weeks. So once the defenses get easier, you get, play easier defenses towards the end of the year, like the Browns and Cardinals come to mind, teams like that. It'll be a lot easier for this team. But as you said, I don't really expect the offense to be clicking on all cylinders right away. But as the year goes on, it will get better. It really can't get worse.
Yeah, it better get better. It better get better, because then you're going to get – then it starts to get reasonable. Why you start talking about potentially, because now you're hearing all this noise. I think it's ridiculous right now, but potentially making a change at the quarterback. But he's got to right this ship, and I think he will. I really do think this offense is going to click around week 6, week 7. I'm with you on Gettleman at this point, and I haven't made a video on it because I'm waiting until it's the appropriate time, even though I agree with a lot of things he did this offseason. And I agree with his initial philosophy. The fact of the matter is, at least so far, and I'm going to be as fair as I can, I'm going to give it to week 7, week 8. But the offensive line, which was his mission statement, just isn't where it should be 3 years later. And that's a big problem. And hopefully it gets better, though. That's all we can hope for as Giants fans.
Yeah, I saw before I was doing research for this upcoming game, and on Football Outsiders, it might have been the Giants, I posted it on Twitter as well, have a 37% stuff rate for their running backs. That means their offensive line is terrible. The next closest team is the Niners at 26%, but the Giants are 11% more than any other team in stuff rate for running backs getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage, showing you how bad the run blocking for this team is. And as we've talked about many times, I don't care how good of a running back you are. Saquon Barkley, top 2 talent in the league at that position, in my opinion, next to McCaffrey.
Yeah,
I don't care how good you are. If you're getting caught by 3 people in the backfield, you're not going anywhere. So the offensive line has to be better. And when Gettleman was hired, that was one of the few things I said to myself, all right, at least he'll come in here and fix the offensive line. I didn't agree with a lot of his philosophies, but I said to myself, he'll come in here and get us a good offensive line in 2 to 3 years, but we're here 3 years later. And although the players are better, for some reason it's just not working. I don't know if it's Garrett's system or whatever it is, and I don't know if the guys need to gel more. There's new starters we went over, Nick Gates and Cam Fleming, Andrew Thomas. We talked about 60% of the offensive line is new. Maybe they need time, but so far it's a bit discouraging for how bad it's been.
Yeah, I can't defend that. There's no doubt about it. But just like Jones, I'm going to give the O-line another 3-4 weeks to get acclimated. I think you're going to see Parrott in there sooner than later. Because Fleming's a liability. You might as well see what Parrott's got. They're probably waiting to see, they want him to be fully comfortable, though. You don't want to rush him in there. I think that'd be a mistake as well, especially because you're trying to protect Daniel Jones. But I do think we'll see Pat sooner or later, and that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the last 8 games, getting to see Pat in there, getting to see Thomas, getting to hopefully see if Nick Gates could be the future starting center. But, yeah, so far, as I expected, the offensive line struggled coming out of the gate.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask your opinion because I feel like people might comment this and, they might be the crazier fans, but what are your opinions about the Trevor Lawrence talk? I feel like it's crazy. I think he belongs to the Jets right now for how bad they are, but what's your opinion? Because
I made a
people are
video on
giving up
this.
already.
I made a video on this yesterday because I wasn't going to make a video on it because I was like, this is just stupid to talk about. I don't want to talk about it. And people were commenting on my videos. I saw stuff all over Twitter, and then I see Bad Dog make a video, and he was saying he wasn't for the tank, but he could understand why people are for the tank. And I was like, no. I was like, I got to say something. I don't understand how 2 games into a season, you're already giving up on a quarterback that – and I think you and me, we're pretty reasonable with Daniel Jones. I've never heard you come out and say that Daniel Jones is going to be this elite quarterback, and I've been the same way. I haven't come out and said he's going to be a franchise guy yet. I mean, there are times where I see it, I see glimpses, but I never said this guy's going to be Peyton Manning. I never said this guy's going to be Tom Brady. I think he could be a very good quarterback, but I need to see it. But by the same token, you got to be in the middle. You can't jump and say this guy's going to be elite, but at the same time, when you factor everything in, the fact that it's a brand new system and they had no time to prepare, there was not a normal offseason, you go up against 2 great defenses. People just forget the guy threw 19 touchdowns over his last 7 games last year. And people are just ready to write this guy off. It's crazy. You got to give this guy the second half of the season to evaluate him this year in this team. I think he's going to do fine. I think people are crazy. They're already talking about it. If they're 1-11 and Jones looks bad, then you can start talking about it. But it is way too early to bring up that conversation.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. That was one of my problems with drafting him. I mean, the turnovers, of course, but I just didn't think he had that super high ceiling of being a top 5 quarterback in the league, which would have been nice. But I also realized that if you build the right team around Daniel Jones, and I said this many times in this preseason, you can win with him 100%. Like he can be what Dak Prescott is or someone like
Ryan
that.
Tannehill with the Titans. Look
For
what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Jones doesn't kill you with the turnovers, he's good enough. He can make the throws. He has great athleticism. There was a clip in the film review I went over where if he was Eli Manning, he's done, dead duck. But he saw Khalil Mack on the left side of him, got out of it, picked up 7 yards. Like there are a lot of good things about Daniel Jones. I think his accuracy is great. I do have concerns about the deep ball being accurate consistently, but it hasn't been bad. We saw the Slayton pass, which was great. We haven't really seen many other deep balls. Hopefully we do. But, I do think personally the Lawrence talk is ridiculous. If we're in week 12 or something and the Giants are just abysmal, we're talking like 1-9, 1-10, whatever it would be at that point, maybe you can talk about it. And Jones is playing terrible. But at the same time, Jones has had no help. He has not had his full set of weapons. It lasted for a quarter even, at most. He doesn't have that, doesn't have the blocking in front of him. New system. Give the guy some time. If Jones is terrible towards the end of the year, we can talk about it. But I don't want the Giants management to do this. There might be a new GM. He might want a new guy. Don't force a quarterback pick. That is the worst thing you can do, right? I learned myself the hard way with Josh Rosen. I saw there were some red flags with him, but I said to myself, I can't deal with Eli Manning anymore. So I was like, you know what? Let's take that guy. But it doesn't work. You have to be totally in love with a quarterback. And if the Giants don't feel that way about a prospect coming up this April, don't do it. Ride with Jones even more. He's on a cheap contract as compared to other quarterbacks, but there's no point in just getting rid of him and being like, I want a new guy, because the next guy might not be good either.
It's not like he hasn't shown flashes either. The guy has shown flashes where you're like, yeah, this guy could be really good. And that's what you expect from a rookie that's only had 14 starts, that's played in 2 different systems. I mean, let's be fair in our evaluation. Maybe he won't be. I'm not going to say he's definitely going to be, but he could be a very good quarterback. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you, Mike, is Eli Manning, when he first came into the league, I'm assuming you got to see him. Did you get to see him from the start?
I started watching in 2005, like regularly.
Okay, so around the start. When Eli Manning first came into the league, he sucked. 2004, he sucked. 2005, he played better. But the thing is, he still wasn't that good. He just had a great team around him. They went 11-5. He had a great defensive line, a great offensive line. These same fans that are calling for Daniel Jones' head would have been calling for Eli Manning's head in this situation. The only reason that Eli made it through is because the team was winning games because he had a great support system. If Eli Manning was in this situation, he doesn't see his 4th year. Not if these fans have anything to say about it. And he won his 2 Super Bowls. So I don't get he's done. We have to give up on him already. No, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. You have to see him mature and hopefully get better.
it's not like he has a perfect situation. There might be maybe a handful of quarterbacks in the league right now at most that can win with this Giants roster if you have no time to throw. I'm thinking like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray types that can get out of any situation. But honestly, it's just
Those
like
guys don't
you
grow
can't.
on trees either,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it's only so long that you could. I don't care how fast the quarterback is. It's only so long that you're going to last and stay sturdy without a good offensive line. It's not. You may have a great 3 or 4 year stretch, but if you don't fix the line, you're not going to have sustainability. That's been the Giants' primary problem for 8 years. They've got to fix it.
Yeah, and that's another problem I have with Gettleman going back to him. Like, I want Jones to have a fair chance here. It was Gettleman who picked Jones, maybe even Pat Shermer. I heard it might have been him as well. But, I want him to get a fair chance. Don't put a completely terrible team around this guy and have him fade out of the league in 2 or 3 years. Like, we need to see Jones have a real chance. And so far, we haven't seen that real chance. There's a lot of season left, but I do want to see him with a real chance because someone brought this up to me. The worst thing you can do is what you did with Ryan Tannehill, ship him off somewhere else or even release him and have him have success elsewhere where it's a better system. So not saying he's exactly Ryan Tannehill. He could be, but, send him to a
Well,
better system. He could do much better.
the two guys that he got compared to coming into the league that I heard the most from everybody was Alex Smith and Ryan Tannehill.
Yep.
What about those quarterbacks have in common? They both weren't good at first. And then they got put in situations where they could succeed. Tannehill led the league in quarterback rating last year. So to me, it's as much about the situation as the quarterback himself. Like you said, there's a handful. And when you say handful, you're talking four quarterbacks maybe they are going to be good no matter where. And that's rare. Everybody could say, I want that guy. You don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to be that guy. You don't know.
Yeah.
There's been so many quarterbacks that people have said he's going to be that guy, and he falls on his face. Look at Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was great, but he was out of the league in 8 years because he didn't have an offensive line, and he took such a beating to his body. He had so many injuries. So Giants got to fix the line, man. They got to fix the line. They got to give Jones a chance, and I think they will fix the line. I think the line's going to get better as the year progresses.
That's the moral of the story. Fix the line. I'm sure we'll talk about the quarterback as the weeks go on. But what is your reaction to Devonta Freeman? What are the expectations? Who gets the majority of carries in this backfield? How does it shake out in your opinion?
I like the signing. Like a lot of people on my channel were saying, I wish they signed Javon Leak, to which my response was, listen, and Giants fans are going crazy because they saw a 115-yard clip of him in a scrimmage, and they saw his college stats, and he's a good kick returner, and maybe he will be a good running back. There's no way I know that, or I don't. But the thing is this, the Giants cut him 2 or 3 weeks before the year started. Every team in the league had an opportunity to pick him up. We're now 2 weeks into the regular season. Nobody's picked him up. To me, that's somewhat telling. If he was this unbelievable guy with this huge upside, you would think somebody have him on their practice squad, and they don't. So I have no issues bringing in a veteran like Devonta Freeman, especially when you got a guy like Saquon Barkley going down. You need a guy that could be somewhat productive, and I think that's what he'll bring. Now, week 1, I don't think he's going to be getting the ball more than 5 times. The guy hasn't been playing. The guy hasn't been training. I look at this as a running back by committee. I think that's what it's going to be going forward. I don't look at Freeman as an answer. I look at him as what I hope is part of the answer as a committee, similar to 2007 when Barber unexpectedly retired, and then you had, obviously we're not going to be that good, but that type of approach where you've got 3 different running backs that are shoveling the load. I don't think Gallman or Lewis are going to have more than 10 or 11 carries, but they'll probably be, I think if they have 25 carries in a game, once all these guys get established, it'll probably be something like 8, 8, and 8. I think it'll be a near even distribution between the 3 of them.
I can agree with that for sure. I don't think Freeman sees a lot of work in week 3. I don't see that happening. As I said, no more than 5 carries. Now, they will rotate running backs. I don't know if they're going to do it based on like just during the drive, give one guy a drive, another guy a drive, then the other guy a drive, and see who's the hot hand. That's kind of what Sean McVay's been doing this year, honestly, if you watch the Rams. But the Saquon injury, it just sucks. This guy was on the field 95+% of the time. Now you got to rotate these guys in and hope they can fill that void. Now, no one's going to fill his shoes. But if the run blocking is good in front of him, as I always say about the running back position, any athletic guy can run through a wide open hole. So if they can make those holes, they'll be all right. Now, I think Dion Lewis is going to have his role of being that third down back. That's not going to change. Freeman's a pretty good receiver as well. I think Gallman's going to get some early down work, but, it's not going to be the same. It's definitely hell for my fantasy team because now I got to pick up 3 guys and wonder who the hell's the starting running back. But it is a crappy situation, but hopefully the Giants find a way to make the best of it.
Yeah, that's all we can hope for as fans. And listen, as much as I love Saquon Barkley and he's the best Giant, let's be fair, he wasn't doing much either because we couldn't block. Like we say, it all goes back to the offensive line. The thing that's discouraging is, though, Barkley was starting to get going before that injury. He had 28 yards on 4 carries and he had -1 yards on the first. So he had 29 yards over his next 3 carries. you were starting to see him get going, and then he goes down. So that was the really discouraging thing. And you knew he was going to get going eventually. But I do think that I do think this could be fairly effective if the offensive line gets better, and that's what it all boils down to.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I said this injury could not have happened at a worse time. Like we literally saw him have his best run of the year. Run blocking was great on that play. Then he has that weird, I don't know if it was elbow injury, whatever it was. They were saying maybe hyperextension, and then he goes down after that. And I'm like, this doesn't look like an elbow. And then ended up being very serious, unfortunately. So, you know.
Yeah, tough, man. And we got to hope that he comes back and he's 100%. But there's no guarantees with an injury like that. That's a serious injury.
Definitely, yeah, and I think it's a pretty bad one too, like MCL and something CL.
It sounds like what Peterson had. Sounds like what Peterson had.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's a great comparison, honestly. Like him and Peterson are just freaks of nature, and Peterson came back 2,000-yard season the next year. Let's hope he does that. Like I'm not going to be the guy that's going to cow out Saquon Barkley. He's going to work his ass off, as you mentioned, to come back and be better than he even was. So I would not count him out. It might take him a little while to get going, but eventually we might see that same Saquon Barkley or even better at some point.
Exactly. That's the way you got to look at it. It sucks, man, because he's a guy that was working hard for that contract extension. Obviously, we're not going to give that to him now, not yet anyway. But I do think he's going to come back motivated. He's a guy that's always been motivated his entire career. You look at the shape the guy's in, his work ethic. Yeah. He's a guy that's impossible not to root for. So I do think he'll come back. I think he's going to fight hard. To me, the biggest obstacle isn't even the physical part, because I think with modern technology and his work ethic, I think he's going to come back. To me, it's more the mental thing. You know, there are so many athletes, basketball, football, whatever sport, when you have a bad injury like that, you may favor it. You may worry about re-injuring the same injury again. I could see that being a bit of an obstacle, at least at first. But in terms of from a physical perspective, I don't think it's going to be a lingering injury. I think he'll come back 100%. We're just going to have to be patient as fans.
Yeah, I've heard from people, I mean, of course, not professional athletes, but a couple of friends that have had ACL type injuries. They say, yeah, it takes you like a full year after the surgery, or even though like basically 2 years, because you come back from a year, then you play a sport through a year, and it basically takes 2 years to really get back to where you were. So like, I'm not expecting great things next year. Hopefully he comes back at some point during the year, maybe even week 1. He is a freak of nature, so maybe we do see him. But let's be honest, Saquon Barkley at 80% is probably better than half the running backs in the league, if not more. So we'll take that. So.
Yeah, probably more. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about was just the nature of the injuries around the league. Like everybody went down. There was, I think there was like 40 injuries. It was something ridiculous on last Sunday. What do you think the primary cause for that is?
I hear things about, is it the turf? Is it the non-preseason? I don't have an exact answer for you. It could be a mixture of everything. And a lot of these are like soft tissue type injuries, I feel like. Like, I don't think anyone's out here breaking fibulas and tibulas, but like, you know, a lot of it could be the turf they play on. I think people were complaining about MetLife's turf, and they had that evaluated this week. I'm not sure personally. I think not having a preseason definitely has something to do with it. I know they want to limit it to 2 games, but like maybe we rethink that. And I know a guy like Barkley, some people argue Barkley during a regular preseason is going to get 3 to 4 carries and maybe not play at all in the preseason. I feel like he didn't play in the preseason last year. I'm not positive.
If he did, it was minimal. If he did.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's not going to affect a guy like him, but for majority of NFL players that are going to play a quarter or 2 for each preseason game and get used to live action and getting hit by people, it definitely helps. So I think not having this preseason and just being thrown right in there into game action definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah, and not just the preseason games, just the normal offseason. You didn't have mini camps. You didn't have OTAs. You didn't have any of that. So I just think everything was rushed. I think that's by far the biggest contributing factor. And unfortunately, I expect to see more. And I know it sucks. Football's a game of injuries, though, you know, and it's the next man up. And some of these guys are going to have to take a step up. And then the other question I have, what about the wide receiver position with Shepard out? If you're the Giants, do you call somebody up from the practice squad? Do you look out there on the free agency wire? Or do you just hope that Ratley could take that big step forward? Or CJ Ford?
I like 2 guys inside the roster, not even inside the roster, but I like Austin Mack. He's a guy I liked a lot in the practice squad. I kind of hoped he made the team, didn't happen. And also Corey Coleman. I don't think he signed anywhere else as far as I know. They could bring him back. Yeah, that's 2 options for me right there. So I would say Mack or Coleman. I think Board, what do you have, a couple catches last week? He looked all right, so it wasn't terrible. I don't know what to expect from the other guys, but they definitely need to bring somebody, and you can't roll with like 3 or 4 receivers.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to see Ratley get more of an opportunity. He's a guy that I thought had a lot of upside when we brought him in. Board looked all right, like you said. But we got to get this passing game going one way or another. And Shepard, to me at this point, and I hate to say it, I love Shepard. This guy gets hurt every freaking year. It's the same thing with Evan Ingram. Everybody gets on Evan Ingram. It's the same thing with Sterling Shepard, whether it's a concussion or whether it's an injury. These guys can't stay healthy, man.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
What is that?
I was going to tweet that out today. People rip on Ingram all the time, but then you just look right next to him, and Sterling Shepard's over there basically doing the same thing,
It's every year they go down. So you can't have that on a football team. You can't have injury players.
I looked at Shepard's contract today just to see can they get out of it at some point. And honestly, the dead money is it's pretty high. So it's not going to be the easiest thing to get out of it, looks like. But dude's got to stay healthy, 100%. I like him a lot, great guy, but great team player, a lot of heart, but he got to stay on the field.
Yeah, I think I looked at his contract yesterday because I was thinking the same thing. And they can't, not next year. I think the dead money is the same as the actual cap money next year. I think the following year it's maybe a possibility. Tate, I think they're going to move on from because you save $5 or $6 million there. And I like Tate, but Tate's 32 years old. He's not a part of the future of this team, and he's already hurt. So we'll see, man. Well, now he's back now, but we'll see if Daniel Jones can make the most out of the situation. It's definitely not going to be easy. We did catch a break, though, with the 49ers.
Definitely. Yeah, we should probably get into that. I want to say Golden Tate did look pretty good in that first game he played in Sunday, but he looked pretty good in there, converted some key third downs and things like that. I wanted to bring your attention. Ross Cockrell signed with the Bucs practice squad. How do you feel about that one?
I saw that. And I heard all these rumors that came out after we supposedly had Ross Cockrell, and then somebody told me that he was asking for $10 million a year. I don't know how reliable that is. He made $3 million the year before. But, I mean, I'm surprised that they only signed him to the practice squad. I think Ross Cockrell is at least an adequate starting corner. He's definitely better than what we got. And I'm surprised. I'm kind of upset that the New York Giants didn't bring him in. Because we knew going in that we were going to struggle there. And to no surprise, we have. That's definitely the Achilles heel of this defense. And it's probably the primary reason why we're not blitzing more. I think Patrick Graham wants to blitz more, but he can't trust that second cornerback spot. I like Cockrell. I'm not saying he's great, but I think the Bucs got themselves a good football player. He'll be on the practice squad, like you said, which surprises me. I think he'll be up with that squad sooner than later, though. I think it was a good pickup by them.
Yeah, that's a good point about not being able to blitz more because you don't trust that second corner. You can't trust Valentine or Yadam. I completely get that. But with that being said, let's get into this Sunday's game. Give a score prediction. I think the Niners, as we said, have half their team out. It's a winnable game. We both talked about it before, but what's your score prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to go into – I'm trying to go in with reasonable expectations because it's a team that's still young. They're still rebuilding. There's still so much unfamiliarity there. But there's no excuse not to stay in this game. There's no excuse for this not to be a close game. I don't expect us to get blown out like the Jets did last week. They're missing supposedly their quarterback, it looks like. It's not confirmed yet, but Mullins, from what I just read before we did this, is almost confirmed to definitely be starting. They're missing half their defense, their highest impact players. They're missing Mostert, their best running back. There's no excuses for the New York Giants not to compete in this game. I expect this to be a field goal game, maybe 4 points at most if they lose. And I think they have a very good chance to win. I think this is a coin flip type game, just like I thought last week. I thought the Giants would have had an opportunity to win that game. They did. They were 10 yards away. I think it'll be a similar situation this week. Personally, I would love to see the Giants go out there and just blow them out. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's possible, though. That's how banged up I think this 49ers team is. I'm going to take the Giants, and I'm not trying to be biased. I do think with all the injuries to the Niners, I think the Giants could get out of here with a field goal win. I'll go something like a 2017 type game, maybe a 24-21 type game. I think the Giants could win this football game.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I mean, if they were fully healthy, I might call you crazy. But based on these injuries, it's like – and Nick Mullins, I think, is 1-0 against the Giants. That was, 2017?
No, we beat him.
We did?
Yeah, we won that game. On
2018, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it was Monday Night Football. It was actually the first game I ever streamed on YouTube. We won that game.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I thought it was 2017, but you're right. So, for me, I love Shanahan. I think he's an awesome play caller. I think they're going to be able to move the ball on us, honestly, and they've been pretty good running the ball. With Shanahan's offense, it doesn't matter who the running back is. If it's Jeff Wilson, Jerick McKinnon, they'll find a way to move the ball. I saw they might sign Paul Perkins as well, which would be crazy. That's like not the craziest thing of this year, but if he came in and rushed for a touchdown against the Giants, that'd be pretty funny. But I will take the Niners to win this game. I think it's going to be like a 24 17 type of game, maybe. I trust they can move the ball. Their defense is still good against the pass. I mean, their run defense has not been good this year, but who's running the ball for the Giants? They can't run block. I don't think they can exploit that the way other teams would. So I have my concerns there, but I'll say the Niners by 7. I do hope you're right. This will be a great opportunity for the Giants to blow out a team. They're relatively healthy. I know Shepard and Barkley are gone, but they're not nearly as banged up as the Niners are. So hopefully this is a game the Giants can come out and surprise us and hopefully win that game.
Yeah, I'm not predicting that, and I think it's going to be a close game. I think it'll be 3 points, 4 points either way. But yeah, I do think with all the injuries to the Niners, I actually do think we could do a decent job at running the ball. They're missing their entire defensive line. I mean, all their starters. Now it's strength on strength, like you said, and the Giants, in terms of the run defense, I think the stats are a little misleading for the Giants this year. If you look at the stats, the Giants aren't doing so well in that department. I don't remember where they rank. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've gotten worn down over the course of games. I would be willing to bet if you looked at the box score, they gave up more than half of those rushing yards in the fourth quarter when the defense is worn down. You've seen that last drive in particular last week. They gave up that 23-yard run on the last drive. So to me, if they can control the clock and win the time of possession, I think the run defense, not saying we're going to stop them. His pre-motion offense is great. Shannon, he's a great play caller. He finds holes for his running back. They're going to be able to run, but I could see the Giants keeping them in check. I don't, where they're not running all over us throughout the entirety of the game. But if they win the time of possession and the Giants can't extend drives and they can't get off the field on third down, which I give them a much better chance in this game than any of the others because you got Nick Mullins out there. So if you could get them in those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6s, I think there's a decent chance we could get off the field on third down, win that time of possession, and maybe we don't wear down over the course of the game. And that's the key to the game. Just like last week, like we both said, it's going to be the third down conversion rate on both offense and defense. Got to get off the field. And, of course, Jones can't commit turnovers. But if they do that, I think they'll win. But I think it's very close. I think it's a very close game.
Yeah. No, you're right, definitely. And I think George Kittle is a huge X factor in this game. I don't know how the Giants will be able to cover him. If he sits out, I think the Giants might actually win. I have him in right now in my mind because he took off last week. I forget what the injury was, maybe a knee sprain. I think he could play through it, but if he does play, it's going to be very tough to guard a guy like him. So that's definitely a concern for me.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, historically, the Giants have really struggled against the tight ends. They did do a good job against Ebron week 1. I don't remember calling his name much. I think he might have had one
time
catches.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Bears? I don't think Graham got his name called much. I think Komet might have made one catch. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about the best tight end the sport has to offer, and that's been our Achilles heel forever. So yeah, that's a big mismatch if Kittle does play 100%.
Yeah, well, hopefully they find a way. But we'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you, Chris, for joining me. We'll talk to you guys after the game. Hopefully a Giants win. We'll be on your channel next week, I believe, and maybe live, right? I think we're doing it live.
Yeah, well, we'll figure out a time that we could do it, and whether it's midday, whether it's a little, whatever it is, we'll go live. We'll talk to you guys. We'll field some of your questions. But yeah, Mike, man, thank you so much for having me on. Love doing this. It's nice talking to a level-headed Giant fan about the team, and I think we're on the same boat. I think we both realize what this year is about. We're rebuilding, and it's week by week. It's about getting better over time, and by the end of the year, I think we both hope that we have a team going into next year that we could feel confident saying we're starting to turn a corner, and we could see some hope. We could see what this team's about, and that's what this year's about for me.
That's well said. You're very level-headed yourself, so thank you for that. But thank you for watching, guys, and we will talk to you next week.